What's up, guys? Welcome back in. Had some technical difficulties, but we got the college football betting show, student section. He's the big man on campus on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. I'm Drew Martin. You can follow me on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Big man, quick show here, 20 minutes or so. We'll hit the chat box at the end. We just did a little bit, some sound issues, but team that surprised you most, real quick, was it wasn't App State. It was which team? Oklahoma, you're right, and parlaying that with the team that disappointed, FAU. Did you have another team you wanted to throw out real quick for the listeners? Team that disappointed?
Yeah, and again, we welcome everyone back. Sorry about the technical issues. We don't have echoes now, and I don't think on the right listener end we have any either. So if you're out there listening and we sound crystal clear, let us know. But yeah, I think another team that was very disappointing was Michigan. I thought Michigan was really hard to watch at times. They just looked unprepared. They didn't look ready to go. But Jim Harbaugh, for whatever reason, on a road game in South Bend, you're not prepared. You had bad penalties. You had real issues in the red zone. Shea Patterson and the offensive line weren't on the same page. You just had a lot of bad decisions by Michigan. And Brandon Wimbush was very good for them. Their defense struggled as well. Couldn't get a ton of stops. I thought Michigan was pretty disappointing.
Yeah, definitely. They dropped the ball there. In Shea Patterson, I know you spoke highly of him in the offseason. In Ole Miss, the kid's name who was his backup last year. Tamu. He looked good. So it might have worked out well for both schools, to tell you the truth, big man.
Yeah, I think it will. And I think Mississippi's another team you got to look at and say they were impressive. I mean, Tamu was terrific. Really seems like, Drew, they like Matt Luke at coach there. Matt Luke kind of reminds you a bit of like an Ed Orgeron kind of in a way. We might not see it, but the players see it and they like him. Mississippi was terrific this weekend. You really kind of held down Texas Tech. At Texas Tech, for you to hold that group to under 30 points, that's always a win in my book. I thought they were fantastic. Mississippi's a team you really got to look out for down in the SEC, and I think you're right with Shea Patterson. I think Michigan will be fine with him. That's a tough game, Notre Dame. I don't think Michigan's completely out of it, but they got to get going quick. Like I said, it was a lot of bad errors, just bad decisions. Time of possession was just at a crawl. Seemed like they had no urgency towards the end of the game. The offense still seems bogged down. And I still think Jim Harbaugh thinks it's the 70s or 80s, and you can call plays like it is. You need to take the top off the offense and let Shea Patterson do the RPOs, kind of get into his thing. Pep Hamilton's a part of that group now as an offensive guy. Maybe let him call plays. I still think Jim Harbaugh's calling plays. It looks like he has his hands all over this offense right now.
Big man, we got some guys in the chat box, Anil, Ryan, XFO, saying the sound's all right. So thank you guys for the information. And obviously it's something with either Skype, the graphics. Big man, what's your guess on what the problem is?
I don't really know, Drew. I mean, I think for you and I, we did the show just now before this, and then we did the show last week at Lisi. And I think the same common theme was you and I were using Skype. We're not using Skype, and now it seems to work fine. So I think it had to do with that a little bit, but hey, we're on the air now and we have some time. So hopefully people know where to find us. Social media, I'm sure they do. Yeah, they usually do a nice job of tweeting this stuff out. So maybe they can jump on and throw us out on Twitter so people know we're here. Fation Gasha, have a soccer pick. My man Fation is Albanian, my sheephead. No, I don't have any soccer plays, Fation. Soccer's off for the next week or two, so no, I don't have anything at this point. But stay tuned with SBR, and I'm sure we'll be able to help you out there. Drew, let me ask you: you're a big Sun Belt guy, and I know they're not really in the Sun Belt, but I think they would be if they were in a conference. How about Liberty over the weekend? They were pretty impressive, weren't they?
Very impressive, big man. And I'll tell you, they're catching 10.5 right now. I saw that opening number. I haven't bet it yet.
Against Army.
Yeah. I was looking at that, man. Wait, what do you think? You want to get into that?
Yeah, I think Army, they looked kind of how we thought they would. They struggled. And this is another tough test. The question I have here is, do you think Old Dominion is just that bad or Liberty was that good? I thought Old Dominion would be okay this year. I thought they were a 5 or 6 win team. I didn't think they would get destroyed. And I think if you look at that game, you have to say to yourself, I think it was Liberty was pretty good. And as we know, Army without a quarterback right now, this is going to be a tough game. I mean, Liberty looked very good. They have a good quarterback. They're well coached. Turner Gill does a nice job there. For me, I'm definitely looking towards grabbing some points here. I think Army's a bit overvalued in this spot. Another team I think is overvalued at this point, and it's quick, but it's there. Hawaii. I mean, look, maybe this week they cover, going and playing Rice. But keep in mind, Drew, this is a team in Hawaii that was a big underdog in both of their games. And now you look next week, they're a 17.5-point favorite against Rice. Keep in mind, both their games so far have been at home. They were an underdog. Now you're laying point. It's a much different kind of scheme to think about. And we have to remember also, the teams that Hawaii played, Navy and Colorado State, are bad defensively. Rice doesn't get much better, but they might, like I said, might cover this one. But I think Hawaii is going to become overvalued real soon, and it might be this week. That's a lot of points to now lay, as opposed to you've been a big underdog. Now you're kind of the hunted as opposed to the hunter.
Yeah, and big man, to follow up on that, there's kind of a matchup thing here that I think really favors Rice, not to win the game, obviously, but I watched Rice's versus Houston and lost. I laid the 26 with Houston. And watching that game, Rice kind of hung in there, and they were actually winning towards the end of in the first half. And Houston and Hawaii run similar looking offenses, and I think Houston is actually a little bit better than Hawaii, at least offensively. So Rice isn't going to have to change a lot going into this week. They've kind of already prepared for this type of offense, so I think that's really going to help them and kind of mitigate the travel here as far as preparation time for Hawaii. So I'm kind of with you. I mean, if I had to bet at Hawaii, but some of the matchup issues make me not want to bet this as much, because Rice hung in there against Houston. They really did.
Yeah, I actually had Houston as well, and I was, the first half was hard to watch. I mean, Houston really struggled to move the ball, and Rice has 2 games under their helm now. Mike Bloomgren's done an okay job so far, even with them losing. Now, I'm not saying Rice is going to beat Houston or beat Hawaii here, but I will say this. I think this game has overwritten all over it yet again. I took Hawaii's over last week against Navy. It went over by 40 points. Rice is a team that I think can move the ball and will move the ball here. Again, I don't think they're going to stop Cole McDonald. I mean, Cole McDonald has 9 touchdowns and over 800 yards in 2 games. They just score points. If this game was in Rice, I'd have a little bit more thought and reason to think that maybe Hawaii can hang around or Rice can hang around in this game. But I think going forward after this week, Hawaii's on everybody's radar now, and defensively they still have major problems, and they're going to give up points all year. They'll be a great over team all season. Drew,
big man, let me ask you a question about the total. What would you bet it over? At what number would you stop?
I think, wow. I mean, I think, with the Navy game the other day, it was 62.5. It even went down to 61.5 before a kick, and I was blown away at that. I really was concerned, frankly, because you had a ton of people coming in on the over. The number goes down. I thought the number was low to begin with. I would say this number will probably be 67, 68. I think anything below 71, I'll probably be interested in. I mean, Hawaii, I think, is going to move the ball. I mean, Rice can't defend. They're going to give up 40 points. The question is, can Rice move the ball? And I think Jackson Tyner, he can move the ball. He's a pretty decent quarterback. We saw even against a team like Houston, Rice could run the ball, and Houston has a pretty good run defense. Hawaii, I don't think is going to put up a ton of pushback here. I think anything under 72-ish, I'm probably buying on.
And I'll tell you, I don't know if you looked. Did you look at the number?
I have not looked at the number, no.
All right, Bet Online just came out, and I think they opened at 65, and it's bet up to 67.5 right now. And
I think you should. If you like this one, you definitely want to jump on it now. And it's probably one that I will move towards getting out by the end of the day, because it's something that you got to look at. But you can also see kind of where the market's going to go. I'm not a big fan of betting games early in the week. I think by the time that kind of everything gets there, you want to make sure you have a good look at the card and everything like that. But
Yeah, hey, we have
Yeah,
Alex Smith in here saying Rice's defense wore down in the second half versus Houston. Could see that coming again this week. I 100% agree with him. I mean, they went pretty much toe to toe with Houston, looked decent in the first half, and then he's right. They did wear down in the second half. Go ahead, big man, with what you're saying.
yeah, that's a great point by him. I mean, they kind of prematurely ejaculated a little bit in a way. I mean, they kind of put all they're like a horse basically that kind of gives it all through the final, first third of the race, and then kind of just wears out by the end. I think Rice kind of, again, if the game was 2 quarters, they probably would have won, but unfortunately, the game's four, and a better team just kind of rolled. But yeah, I think that's an interesting game for sure that I'm going to have my eye on. Another team that I think, I kind of talked to you about it on the first show. I think this is a really interesting handicapping scenario. Kansas State, Mississippi State. Kansas State was one of those teams that looked really poor in week one. I mean, they struggled against a Coyotes of South Dakota team that, was an FCS team. I mean, they're a pretty good FCS team, but when you're Kansas State and you're at home, you need to take care of business against those kind of teams. They struggled and almost lost the game. The quarterback play was bad. And if you look at what Bill Snyder said today, they're going to continue with this 2-quarterback system. Their quarterback play is not good. And for a team that already year after year struggles to move the football, I think you're going to have a lot of trouble here. And on defense, you got Mississippi State coming in. You got Joe Moorhead coming in. You got Nick Fitzgerald coming back from suspension and from injury. You look at last week without Fitzgerald. Didn't really matter. Still won 63-6 over Stephen F. Austin. Again, this is a bigger and tougher team, and it's on the road. But I have real question marks about Kansas State's offense.
Big man, you bring up Mississippi State. What do you think of the SEC West? What'd they go? 6-0 ATS, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, they were impressive. I was close to talking about LSU as my team that surprised this week. I mean, I thought they were fantastic against Miami. I mean, they just really shut them down. Miami had literally nothing to really say about it. They just kind of took it right on the chin. I mean, Burrow was good. Their defense was flying around. Orgeron played and had a good game plan last night. Yeah, but no, the SEC West was real good. I mean, you got to look at kind of Alabama as well. I mean, obviously they played well. Drew, a team that I was a bit kind of annoyed with over the weekend is Arizona. I thought with Sumlin, I thought he really hamstrung Khalil Tate. I thought only late in the game they really said, okay, go out and play your offense now. If we can see Arizona play at a high level and kind of the training wheels are taken off, I think Arizona's offense is really good. I don't know what they were doing against BYU. It seemed like they didn't care until like there were 6 minutes left. Then they started firing and throwing the ball downfield and everything. Houston was another team that's disappointing. That's an interesting game there, 325, 326. Arizona is basically going to be playing at 10 o'clock Eastern in the morning. So that's an interesting game.
Yeah, 325, 326, you said? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 4.5. Interesting.
I mean, you got a Pac-12 team here against an AAC team. And look, if you watched the Houston game, you would have seen that, I mean, Houston really struggled to get a lot of stops, and particularly in the first half. I mean, Rice was doing kind of whatever they wanted in this game. I want to see, though, them take the training wheels off Khalil Tate and let him run. I mean, I think he only had like 16 yards rushing. You watch the game, Sumlin seemed like he was really kind of holding back. I don't know what that was all about.
Yeah, it would be interesting if they kind of take the training wheels off here. This number is still at 66 as far as the total goes, so might look towards the over here. Do you have an opinion on the total?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I wasn't too impressed with Houston defensively. And look, I don't ever expect Arizona to get any stops. So yeah, I mean, it might be a bit high, maybe. I mean, I'd prefer it more in the low 60s as opposed to like in the mid to high. But I mean, Arizona is a team that you definitely want to keep in mind, Drew, and to the listeners. They're a team that really struggle against the spread. I mean, over the last 3 seasons, they're 8-18 against the number and 4-12 as a dog. You equate a lot of that to Rich Rodriguez, but I mean, you look at the game on Saturday, it really didn't change. I mean, they were still a team that struggled to move the ball, even though they have weapons. They need to let Khalil Tate run the offense and stop holding him back.
Big man, what about a program that I know you're close with, Temple? They got Buffalo this week. Does that number surprise you? 4? Temple laying. I was thinking Buffalo would be the favorite.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is obviously in Philadelphia, and it's a game that, I think you all have to remember, Temple does not have a stadium. They play at the Link, which is where the Eagles play as well. And I don't know if anyone knows, but the Eagles play there Thursday night. I think, first of all, field conditions are going to be interesting in this game. That's one concern that I always have at Temple. Field conditions are not ideal. The other day they were ideal because no one played, but that's one of the issues that you have when you host and are at another stadium. A, the field conditions are poor, and B, you just don't have a ton of people that turn out for the game. Most kids, Drew, even though it's a straight shot from north to South Philadelphia, you have to take the subway. It's probably 20 minutes to a half an hour. Then you got to get off the train and you got to walk to the stadium. It's not ideal for students, especially when it's Labor Day. It's kind of the first week off. It's still nice out. Most kids that go to Temple University do not want to go watch the football team play Buffalo. There's not a great backing from the outside fans. This athletic program, I think, from the kind of the outside looking in, it's not doing well right now. The football team's not being supported. I think the athletic director needs to be moved on from, but that's just kind of the intangibles here. Keep in mind also, Utah didn't play well at all this weekend. Villanova kind of cleaned their clock. And this Buffalo team coming in, Jackson's a great quarterback. Anthony Johnson at wide receiver, terrific. Temple, I think, is again on upset alert. They're a team, though, that's good. I think they'll kind of learn. Villanova is always a tough kind of rival there. I know they're FCS, but they're a tough team to prepare for, especially being in the same city. They kind of feel a bit disrespected in football. I'm not running to lay points. I think this would be a great game, though. I think It's a real fun game.
Well, big man, we only got about 5 minutes left, man. What do you want to hit on to kind of wrap this up?
Yeah, like I said, you were on the other show. Another game that I'm kind of looking towards is UAB and Coastal Carolina. I like UAB a lot. Bill Clark has done, I know you know this, an absolutely tremendous job. Coastal Carolina, it's still you still got to wonder, do they really belong in Division One? Struggled over the weekend against South Carolina. Only had 23 yards. Only had 15 points in that game. Struggled to move the ball. A lot of that was garbage time as well. Really couldn't do much. Only had about 230 yards total. UAB is a team that I expect cover numbers like this against bad teams. I mean, they won 52-0 last week, Drew, against Savannah, who we know Savannah's a joke. But, I mean, feasibly, Drew, how much better is Coastal Carolina than Savannah? I mean,
I don't know about Savannah. Coastal Carolina, I mean, last year I lost on them. I know 2 separate times they covered point spreads where I was laying against them, so I'm kind of trigger shy with them. But they can move the ball a little bit last year. I didn't see the game against South Carolina. I just don't think that.
But are they 30 points better than Savannah State? Like, I don't see that.
I couldn't speak intelligently about it. I don't know Savannah State.
That's basically what this number is saying. Like, to me, I feel like UAB should be like a 21-point favorite in this game. Personally.
UAB can move the ball.
Yeah,
their quarterback's pretty good.
Yeah, AJ Erdley, right? Spencer Brown at running back. They're a good team. Bill Clark is a guy that will have his team spread. He's a great coach. I like backing great coaches. One other one before we kind of wrap up here, and obviously, guys, I think we fixed the sound things. I think going forward, we might have to use this kind of transmission. But Drew, I had my eye on that Memphis Navy game. It looks like a beautiful over. I mean, doesn't it? I mean, how many times have we backed these teams over the number? I'm sure this one's at about 71 to open. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, right. You looked.
I swear on my mother, I haven't looked. I have
71.5.
Okay. Yeah. Drew, I should be an odds maker. I'm pretty good at figuring out numbers.
Yeah, that's good.
I've seen these teams before, but Memphis is gonna, I think, really put a hurt in the Navy. We've talked about their defense. They have major issues on defense through Navy. I mean, there are no leaders on this team defensively, and Memphis just put up 66 over the weekend. So I mean, it was against Mercer, but Navy can't do much to stop anyone either. And I wonder, can Memphis stop Navy? That's kind of the big question. Got to look at their past matchups to see. But I'll tell you what, I kind of like Memphis at this price against Navy. I remember last year Navy had some trouble moving the ball against Memphis, if I can remember correctly. Like I said, I got to look at some past matchups a little bit more.
All right, big man. Well, I guess we can shut this down. A little quick show here, and it looks like we got it fixed. So next Thursday we should be good to go. Anything in the chat box you want to hit on real quick? Boise State, any thoughts? Boise State's the real deal, big man. They crushed Troy.
Yeah,
by far the better team.
I think they are a team. Them and San Diego State are going to be. I think I know San Diego State lost, but I think those two teams are going to battle like hell in the Mountain West. But yeah, Boise looked real good, didn't they? Over the weekend. And what did they win by? 36, I think. Put up 56 on Troy on the road. Yeah, I think this week against UConn, I have a hard time thinking that at home they don't just destroy UConn. They might put up 60 in that game.
Yeah,
I don't think it's off the rocker to think that. One other thing before we go, people are asking about tonight's game. Drew and I kind of agreed maybe the over. I think people maybe will be kind of turned off due to the fact of the weather coming, but there's no wind to speak of. I don't think it's going to be too bad. I think both offenses are pretty solid. Drew mentioned Walt Bell at Florida State now, so I think both offenses will be able to move. I think it's a pretty fun game. I kind of pegged it like 33-27, something like that, 34-27, something like that. I would lean over, but it's a very tough game from a side perspective.
Yeah, I'm the same way, big man. I have some friends at the game. I was going to give them a call right before the game and kind of get their opinion on how the weather really was, because a lot of times, these weather websites aren't always the most accurate. But might go with the over if it's clear. If not, probably just stay away.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. I hope it's a better game than last night's game here on Labor Day in the U.S. But Drew, look forward to getting this show kind of perfected where we can talk about football and we don't have any echoes and stuff like that. I always enjoy talking football with you. We'll have Joe Lisi back, Thursday? Well, at least I hope we're on Thursday, Drew, and then back with Kelly next week on Monday. So football is in full force right now, Drew. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. He's the big man on campus. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. And guys, we'll be back next Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow's show will be the NFL. So stay tuned for that at 4 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and best of luck with your bets.
Have a good day.